we're not going to pay you what you're worth, and we're going to make you sign this non-compete so that even if you do leave and you go somewhere else, they're not going to pay you what you're worth because you're not going to be able to work there because we're not going to let you. A lot of people are faced with that. They're in corporations where they're not paid what they're worth. And even the threat of leaving and going somewhere else, the company can take that away from them too because they can't compete. They're not allowed to. Great news for people who want to leave their job and start a business in the same industry. The FTC just announced a final rule on non-competes. If you don't know what a non-compete agreement is, they are very common in certain fields, especially sales. Let's say you have a sales job at company A and you want to go take a sales job at company B and you're selling the same kind of stuff. Company A can say, no, sorry, you can't go work at company B. So what this did was it forced a lot of people to stay in a job at a company that they didn't really like, that wasn't paying them what they felt like they were worth because they couldn't go somewhere else. And in my world, the online business world, very common. You'll have someone who is very successful at doing what they do in the corporate world. Like, and this might be your case, you're a very good salesperson, and yet you can't go and sell the same type of thing independently as your own business or for another company, and so you're stuck. So then you go and you have to do something completely unrelated to anything you've ever done, and maybe you really like the work that you do. And that's the conundrum that a lot of people find themselves in. In my world, where I help people leave their 9-to-5s and start and grow their own online businesses centered around their own knowledge and experiences and passions, often what people will tell me is, I would love to get into doing something like that, except I have a non-compete, or I would have a non-compete if I were to leave. And then they're like, well, what would I do? What would I sell? How would I market if I can't do these things because of a non-compete? Well, now that's a thing of the past. Today, the Federal Trade Commission, this happened on April 23rd, issued a final rule to promote competition by banning non-competes nationwide, protecting the fundamental freedom of workers to change jobs, increase innovation, and foster new business formation. Can I get an amen? I love this stuff. By the way, if you're looking to do your own business online, to make a passive income style online business, go check out my free guide, lanesebring.com/supersimple. It's my super simple guide to your first $500 online. It's the exact steps that I use to start my passive income style online business that now makes multiple six figures a year. And I've coached hundreds of other people on how to do the same. lanesebring.com/supersimple. Non-competes clauses keep wages low, suppress new ideas, and rob the American economy of dynamism, including the more than 8,500 new startups that would be created a year once non-competes are banned. Gosh, there's so much there. Low wages right now is something that everyone is talking about. The fact that wages have not kept up with inflation, with housing costs. So if non-competes are one of the things that lead to low wages, and it makes so much sense. I remember when I had a job and I was performing well at my job. I'd been with this, it was in my case, because I was a pastor, it was a church that I was working at. I'd been with this church for a long time. They were promoting me, and yet, because I came to that church right out of college, right out of an internship at 22 years old, they still viewed me as someone who they could pay very little, is what I'm getting at. And so this was a church that was in the Washington, D.C. area, rather large church, had a big staff, and everybody was making what they needed to make. We call it commensurate. They were making money commensurate with their experience, but also their accomplishments and their performance, and this is very important, the cost of living in that area. Because even back then, this was like 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, around that time, even back then, living in Washington, D.C. area was incredibly expensive, even before the rest of the country was expensive. Because I had been promoted several times, they would give me like a little bit of money every time they'd promote me, but it never actually matched the role that I was in. I would be doing something that everybody that I worked with was making more. Everybody that worked around me in other churches in the area made more. And so it wasn't like I was taking one for the team. I was just not being treated fairly. So I went to the leadership, wrote a 3-page paper, said, these are all the things that I've accomplished in my time here. This is how I've grown the ministries that I'm leading. This is the results that you could show, that I can show. And here is some market research that I did. And I was $25,000 less than what I should have been being paid at that time. And they were doing it because they could get away with it, because they knew that, like, if they had to hire someone else, they certainly would have to raise them up to get new talent, but I would likely stay there and they could keep paying me way less than they should. And so I basically said, listen, everybody tells me that to get a significant bump in pay, that you have to leave the organization and go somewhere else in order to do that. And I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. And you want me to stay here. And yet, what you're telling me, by substantially underpaying me and having no plan to correct that, you're basically telling me that I'm going to have to leave this organization to get a significant bump in pay ever. And they just looked at me and just kind of said, yeah. And fortunately, I was very young. I was in my 20s. I had someone kind of go to bat for me that had some influence, and I was able to get raised to what was a fair salary for that time and that place and my experience and accomplishments. So that got worked out. But if you had added to that the pressure of a non-compete, in other words, we're not going to pay you what you're worth, and we're going to make you sign this non-compete so that even if you do leave and you go somewhere else, they're not going to pay you what you're worth because you're not going to be able to work there because we're not going to let you. A lot of people are faced with that. They're in corporations where they're not paid what they're worth. And even the threat of leaving and going somewhere else, the company can take that away from them too, because they can't compete. They're not allowed to. So the FTC, they've stepped in and they've said, no mas. We are not going to let you do this. Keeps wages low, suppresses new ideas, robs the American economy of dynamism. Of course, yes, including from the more than 8,500 new startups that would be created. We need new business. We need entrepreneurs. We need people starting businesses, and anything that supports people, individuals starting businesses is a good thing, I'm for it. And this is why, if you are looking to start a business and potentially a non-compete has kept you from leaning into that and going for it, let this be the thing that pushes you to the edge. Now, there is a lot here on the FTC.gov website, but I don't want to read all that. I want to read a summary that was put out by Mind Branches. This was really good. They did a good job. So purpose and benefits, they basically summed up that whole ruling into these sections: the purpose and benefits, the economic impact, provisions of the rule, public and regulatory feedback, alternatives, and then implementation and compliance. So let's look through here. The purpose and benefits. The FTC has issued a final rule banning non-compete agreements nationwide. This rule aims to enhance competition, foster new business creation, and increase innovation. We just looked at that. Estimated benefits include a 2.7% annual increase in new business formation and a potential $194 billion reduction in healthcare costs over 10 years. Pretty amazing. Banning non-competes. This is the economic impact. Banning non-competes is projected to create over 8,500 new startups annually. The average worker's earnings are expected to rise by $524 per year. Okay, that's something. Again, that's an average. So you could expect that some people will get a much larger increase than $524. Innovation is expected to surge with an estimated increase of 17,000 to 29,000 more patents filed each year. Most existing non-competes will become unenforceable after the rule's effective date. Non-competes for senior executives represent less than 0.75% of workers and are excluded from this change. This is mainly protect lower level workers and people who are kind of on the lines, and particularly people who are in sales jobs who are very good at their sales job, and the company doesn't want to lose them to another company, so they make them sign a non-compete and then they can underpay them. That really is who this helps. Employees are protected from forming or enforcing new non-competes, even with senior executives. Public and regulatory feedback. There was 26,000 comments from the public over a 90-day public review period, with the majority supporting the ban. Adjustments were made to the initial proposed rule based on public feedback. The FTC highlighted alternatives such as trade secret laws, non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, that over 95% of workers with a non-compete already have. So there will still be non-disclosure, so you can't go share the secrets of your previous company, and trade secret laws, right? If something is proprietary, you can't go share that secret, but you can take your personal skill and ability and go do the same type of work somewhere else, or start your own business doing the same type of work. And that is awesome. These alternatives allow employees to protect their interests without restricting worker mobility. Okay, so it's a win for everybody, right? We don't want to see anybody lose, and I think that's what this does. Implementation and compliance. The final rule requires employees to notify workers with existing non-competes that these will not be enforced. I bet they're going to love doing that, right? Oh man, we're going to send out a letter to anybody who has a non-compete on file and let them know that they no longer have to honor the non-compete. Like, they're going to hate doing that. Model language for compliance communication is including in the rule. The rule will take effect 120 days after publication in the Federal Register, with provisions for reporting violations to FTC, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if a non-compete agreement has ever or is right now keeping you from starting a business, doing similar things to what you were doing, you just can't do it because of a non-compete, that is very shortly going to become a non-issue. So what does that mean? It means jump in. If you are interested in starting an online business where you are not just selling a product, but you're selling your knowledge, this is the best opportunity that you have. Jump in, lanesebring.com/super simple. Go check out what there is to offer there. I want to hear from you. What is it that how does this impact you? What do you think about this ruling? Let me know in the comments. And speaking of low wages, I actually did a video recently about the salary that it takes to live in every US state. You can check that out right there. You might find it interesting if you're into this type of content.